Holy cow. Hey, everybody. This is Jeff Allen, and welcome to our first podcast ever. We did a lot of marketing research. First of all, I want to back up. I was talking to my accountant, and he told me I have no retirement account. You need to figure out a way to generate more income. And I thought, gee, I'll better do some research because I'm doing everything I can comedy-wise out on the road. So anyway, I hired a company with money I didn't have. And they came back and said, there's just not enough podcasts in the United States. And one more podcast would strike the right balance with the American people. So here we are, our first podcast. And I did not want to do this alone because I'm neurotic and afraid to be out here on a tightrope by myself. So I looked around and I realized that the biggest problems in my life right now are my millennial children. I just can't figure them out. I don't understand how they think. I don't know how they process information. So I thought, how cool would it be if I could find a millennial? And then I thought, the other problem in my life is my wife, Tammy. I can't figure her out. 38 years. They say women are like onions, and I agree with that because nobody's made me cry more than Tammy. So I figured then I'll find a millennial woman, so maybe that can help me sort out the differences I have with my bride and with my children. So with that said, I'd like to introduce my co-host for the podcast, Carollynn Xavier. She will. You can explain who you are.
Yeah.
Why you're here, why you chose to get with an old man.
I'm a little nervous now because I didn't realize I was supposed to help you with your kids and help you with your marriage. I didn't realize that was a part of the thing. My name is Carollynn Xavier. If you don't know me, which you might not, I am an Instagram stand-up comic that moved from the wilds of Los Angeles to the South. I had never been to the South before. And I tried stand-up. I tried my hand at stand-up, and I decided I'd rather be a mom. And I was telling Jeff the first time we met that I'd rather be a mom. And he was like, I have a great idea. Look, I need help with my kids, and I need help with my wife. And then, boom, here we are.
Here we are.
Here we are. And we don't necessarily have a name yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah, we're working on a name for the podcast. But also, we realized as we sat down and we're booking guests, we're going to have guests every week that probably more interesting than we are. We hope they're more interesting than we are.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
And that will keep you coming back. But we realize we don't really know that much about each other. We've been friends now for a few months.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, you are going antiquing with my wife.
I am going antiquing with Tammy.
In a couple weeks.
So I love like project type stuff. And Tammy was telling me that she bought this bird cage and she was sanding it and she was refinishing it. And I was like, I thought I was the only girl that was like really into this.
Oh, gosh.
And I can't even believe that it blew my mind.
Our first 25 years of marriage, every piece of furniture we had basically was bought at a thrift store, sanded and refinished by my wife.
That's how I do everything.
Yeah.
It drives Brent crazy.
Well, it drives her crazy to pay retail for
me too.
Like at Pottery Barn, And I always say, well, I work for a reason. Let's just get the finish. She goes, oh, I just can't do that. She just can't do that.
Yeah.
So
it's like this thing where it's like I see it. It might be a little bit too much like my marriage, but I'm like, I see it and it's a little banged up and broken. But if I put in a lot of effort in the garage, I can fix it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So you came from Southern Cal. I found you on Instagram before I even met you. It was so funny when I ran into you at Zany's. I'm terrible with remembering things, but there's this part of my brain that goes, you've seen her.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remember where. And I think I went back home and I was just scrolling through Instagram. And because I follow you on Instagram, you popped, I went,
oh, you put two and two together.
That's her. Yeah. That's her. And I remember us talking about you wanting to get off the road and get away from stand-up. And I had the idea that I wanted to do something like this, to get off the road, the same thing.
We're both retiring.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, Tam's after 38 years of a road comic for a husband. Yeah.
She doesn't want to just see you at the grave.
No, that's it. You know, and that's what she told me. She said, I just don't want to to just have our last 3 or 4, 5, 10, whatever years they are is the same. So we kind of look, what can you do? And, I guess the podcast thing, we'll find out if people pick up on it. But
I think there's a moment here to be like, look, he's trying to get off the road. So get your tickets now at jeffallencomedy.com.
You're giving it away. Next year is my first farewell tour.
Really?
It's just first. Everybody has 4 or 5.
Yeah, I have seen all of the classic rock guys.
Right.
They've got 6 or 7 farewell tours.
Yeah, so my first farewell tour will be next year.
Do you think that's because they just burn through money? Is that what happens?
I just think...
Or they're addicted to the...
I think that's it. I love what I do. I love interacting with... it's so funny. My manager tells the story. When I was using, he knew me. My manager knew me since 1983 when I was using drugs and alcohol and stuff.
Wild man.
And I never stuck around after the show. I'd finish the show, I'd leave. I'd just go, one of the parts of this disease of alcoholism is isolationism. You just isolate yourself. I used to say I could sit in a crowded bar and be alone. Yeah. I didn't need to be with any. I just had people around me, but I wasn't interacting with human beings. And now he tells people I'm the last one to leave. Tammy will do that. She'll grab me by the arm. It's so funny. If Tammy travels with me, she'll sit because she's antisocial. She doesn't want to meet anybody. So she'll sit and I'll watch her just, you never shut up. You never shut up. But I'm shocked that anybody but I love what I do. And I think that's it. You just get away from it for whatever period of time. And you go, I miss that. The adrenaline. The enjoyment, the people who come up and tell you the impact you've had on their life and stuff. I don't think it gets old. If it does, you should quit.
Yeah.
You should quit
I did not like it. That's why I stopped. So when did you start? Because I don't really know any of this. Okay, you started in what year?
1978.
78.
Yeah, comedy club.
Okay, so they had
as a
electricity
magician.
Then. You started as a magician?
I did. I was a close-up magic guy. I met a guy in college. He was a friend of the girl I was dating. Her best friend's boyfriend was a world-class close-up magician. So we're at a bar one night, and he goes, I do magic. And I went, oh, yeah, okay. And he takes 5 coins from me and proceeds to push one of them each time into a glass underneath the table. And it just...
You're like, how?
Well, that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And it's like so funny how people react to magic. Tammy's one of those that if she can't figure it out, it upsets her. She doesn't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten her to a point now where when we go see close-up magic, I said, just enjoy. It's not a game. He's not sitting there going, you idiot, I'm going to fool you. He's just entertaining you, so enjoy it. I think she's there. And my youngest son is one of those that just, he can't. He's got to figure it out. I mean, it's not about entertainment value. And I wanted to learn how to do it. I did. And I learned from 2 of the best in the country at the time, and got adept, fairly adept. So I did some places in Chicago, and then I came to a comedy club. I was working for a jewelry company, and they said, hey, you want to go to the comedy college? Now I had to back up. My brother was a musician, and he had a couple of comedians open for him one night, a comedy team, O'Brien and Severa. They were Chicago people, and blew me away. I was 16 maybe when I saw him.
Yeah.
Just blew me away. And I thought, God, boy, that would be the coolest thing. And when I got to college, I would do stand-up routines in the locker room about guys I grew up with. I would just make up stories about them. And I thought, man, I could do this stand-up thing. This would be great. But how do you do it? I mean, it's not like today where they have, every club has a class, every club. I mean, you can go to comedy club. There were a couple in Chicago that I never knew about. So anyway, I'm working for this jewelry company. And they go, let's go to the comedy cottage. I go, what's that? And they go, these comedians get up one after another. It's really kind of cool. And really?
You're like, this is mine.
So that was August.
Ditched magic.
That was it.
That. You're like, I'm out of here.
Well, no, I kept doing close-up and stuff. But I hung at that club every night from August until Thanksgiving night when I finally got the courage to go up. Everybody in that building knew I wanted to do this. Just didn't have the courage to do it. So I went up that first night and I brought my magic stuff. And I was so bad. I never did stage. I did table. Yeah. So I had no table. I dropped things. My hands were shaking. I mean, And I used to say, I don't know if I was a sadist or a masochist. Someone was getting punished enjoying it. I
Yeah.
don't know if it was more me or them,
But
but
did you sell it? Like you were like the stumbling magician?
not at all.
Not at all.
I didn't have
No.
any skills. And then I went back Sunday. That was Thursday night because Thanksgiving night.
Yeah.
So Thursday night was open mic. I go back Sunday and sign up. I went home that night.
More.
I went home that night. And this is the way I handle shame and humiliation. I cried all the way to my apartment. And then when I got in, I punched holes in my closet door. The rage came out. So I go, that's my cycle. Shame, tears, rage. So anyway, I'm back Sunday night. Yeah, I went back Sunday night. And it was funny when I met Tammy and told her the story. She goes, why would you go back after humiliating yourself? And then she reminds me of all the humiliation that I expect. Babe, I was kind of over it. It had been 20 years. So, anyway, I go back Sunday night and this very large black MC comes over to me. I loved Orlando Reyes. And he said, you're going to have to make some sense tonight. We're still trying to figure out what you said Thursday night. And I go, yeah, I know. It was pretty bad. He goes, no, it was more than bad. I mean, he goes, we have no idea what you said. I mean, I was drunk and, anyway.
Oh, you were drunk?
Oh, I was trashed. Okay. I was trashed.
I pictured this just like nerdy, scared
Not
guy.
At all. Just trashed. So I get up there and then I bomb again, humiliate myself.
But at least you knew you humiliated yourself. How many people have you seen bombed trash and they're like, "Wow, friggin' killed it." Yeah.
I know. Well, that was so funny. And then like a month into doing open mics, and believe me, I was awful. I see a guy, Larry Reeb, one of the funniest guys out, Uncle Lair, writing in a notebook. And I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm preparing my set. I go, you prepare this stuff? And he goes, you don't? I go, no. He goes, wow, that explains a lot. we've been trying to discuss, because after a month, you'd think you develop some chops, at least a joke.
Yeah.
So anyway.
So you're just winging it.
I was. I thought you talked like I did in the locker room. I would just talk about guys I knew and whatever, and what happened at work, or, I just kind of made stuff up. And I look at it also in hindsight as great training. You get used to bombing and humiliating yourself. You're willing to try anything new. I saw guys, and in hindsight going back, 3 years later, they were doing the same 15 minutes that they started with, because to step out of that comfort zone
horrifying
and not get the laughs, because they would get huge laughs with the stuff they knew.
Yeah.
And then go out and not get a laugh and immediately go back to the old. Me, I was used to bombing. So
people that are listening that don't know, every time you say bombing, I can feel my heart palpitations going harder, because it's like all of that trauma, like, and people act like it's not.
It's not normal.
And it's like, and it's weird because it's like you have this like trauma trigger to bombing, and then it's like you still step on the stage anyways, and it's like, oh God, am I gonna make it this time? It's always that's where the adrenaline comes for me. Is like, am I gonna survive this time?
Well, in the back of my head, I knew somewhere in there I could do this if I could just get over the nerves.
Yeah.
And again, I really had no life. I mean, I was working a job that I didn't care about. I mean, it wasn't like I had plans. That's the context of my book. Was I wasn't a planner.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do in 5 years?
Heck if I know.
I don't know. But,
this close-up magic might pan out.
Not at all. I dropped that pretty quick. I realized I could bomb without the props.
Was it like just to get attention from people that were like, you just wanted, oh, I want to make people laugh and make people have a good time with close-up magic? Or were you like, this is how I'm going to get chicks? Like, what was the...
I just wanted to learn how to do it. And it was a skill I still admire today. I love close-up magic. I love sitting at a table and watching people do, especially having some knowledge of how things work.
Yeah.
And I kind of look for palms and passes and things. I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out. I just enjoy it. I know what it takes to develop a skill to be able to misdirect somebody and move something somewhere where they're not looking. And I appreciate that from a technical standpoint. And then it gets down to entertaining. If there are a lot of boring magicians, cadence-wise, there's just a lot. Now,
we've all been to those parties.
One of our friends, Stephen Bergazzi, is probably one of the best.
So funny.
His skill level is huge, but then his entertainment value is through the roof because he's just a naturally funny guy. His texts crack me up when I send him text, and he trashes me as being an old man because I think I'm a year older than him. So it gives him right to call me names. So anyway, back to the comedy. That was 78. By 79, I had developed maybe 10 or 15 minutes that was passable. I did have a club owner come to me after about a year and tell me, "You do know you'll never make a living at this." And I said, "Thank you." And he goes, "You're welcome." I said, "Because nobody's ever made anything of their life has not had some pinhead in the past tell them they're not going to make anything of their life.
Yeah.
You're my pinhead. I'm going to tell the world. I'm still telling this story. Look at me. I'm still telling this story. Didn't bother me at all. 47 years later.
You get up every morning and looked at your whole year tour schedule, and
That's
you're like,
right.
not making anything,
Not
buddy.
making anything, buddy. Yeah, he's long gone. But by 1980, the country exploded with comedy clubs. Literally exploded. There were more clubs than there were comedians that could do. So I was able to hit the road with my 15 minutes
and make money.
Which is a couple hundred a week, $250 a week. Back then it was $250.
Yeah.
Today you need
that's a trip to the grocery
6,000
store
to be worth the $250.
Yeah.
My $250 went farther back in 1980. And 50 weeks, I had nothing else to do. And I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict. So if you like to sleep, get a job at a mattress factory. You like to drink, get a job in a bar. And I was in a bar 5-6 nights a week, 7 nights a week, and
$250 probably didn't last long.
Not at all. I mean, and then eventually I worked my way up to middle act, 500-600. And then when I met Tammy, I was 7 or 8 years in. Yeah, 8 years, because I was 29, so 7 years in. I was headlining by then, comedy clubs. And again, not a draw, though. Not a draw. See, there's a difference. And I always knew the difference.
Yeah.
I said to people, they call me headliner, but I'm not.
I heard it one time. They said, you're not a headliner if you don't have a draw. You're a closer.
Closer. That's what I was. I closed the shows. And that's what they had. There weren't many true headliners because the big names were moving into performing arts centers and bigger.
Remind me of the old days. Who was big in the 80s?
Seinfeld.
Because to me, it kind of all blends together. Anything pre-2000, I'm like, those guys.
Seinfeld came out of the clubs.
Was like Bill Hicks big then?
Bill Hicks was gaining a big following. Hicks was more of a peer. Peers loved him. Technically, everybody, comics loved him.
Yeah.
And I'll be straight up. I didn't get him. I was in New York. I couldn't wait. I was working catch, and I heard he was working that night. I got there early to catch his set.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and I went, yeah, it's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Again, I wasn't. It's so funny. He changed my life. To say that he called Ronald Reagan a capitalistic swine. It was New York, so they applauded and cheered.
Uh-huh.
And I'm driving home that night, and I realized I didn't get it because I didn't know what a capitalist was. And it hit me like a freight train.
You're like, I don't know this word.
I make my living with words, and I'm assuming capitalist is a basic word. I don't. And to go back to high school, I remember taking a test. I get called in freshman year, and they said, we need to have you take your test again. I go, what test? The vocabulary test. And I go, why? They go, well, your comprehension came back in 8th grade, 12th grade, 9th month. You're way ahead in comprehension. Your vocabulary came back 3rd grade. So they're trying to figure out how you can comprehend things if you don't know what they mean.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it's funny because I can look in a paragraph and I can figure out what things mean. But if you ask me what a word means, even when my kids were growing up, they'd come in with, what does this word mean? And I could use it in a sentence. I could use it in context. But to define it, I wasn't quite sure. And amazingly, when I would look words up, how wrong I was about my definition of what the word was.
Yeah.
Again, I could use it in a sentence. So I'm driving home that night after watching, and I go look up the word capitalist. And the first thought I had was, what's wrong with that? And I kind of knew Hicks enough peripherally to know that he was out there seeking money, like everybody else. His agent was pushing to get every dollar they could get.
Job.
I mean, he enjoyed the system.
Yeah.
So anyway, I didn't quite understand that. But I realized I needed help. So I went and got an SAT collegiate book and started studying. I even wrote a joke for the word acquiescence so that I would remember it. And I said, I came up with a line of men's cologne for people like me, for men like me. It's called acquiescence. It's for real men who know how to comply. It's made with the oil of a jellyfish. So I thought it's a great joke. Plus, it allows me to use a big word, so I sound more intelligent. And so anyway, I studied this book, and I realizing that my comedy was changing because I had more words to use other than the 7 that George Carlin said were taboo.
Oh yeah, because you were dirty back then.
I wasn't dirty. I had a foul mouth. Instead of pinheads and morons and idiots, they were effing this, effing that.
Right.
And when you don't have anything to fill in, and that's what always killed me about Dennis Miller. Dennis Miller blew me away. He emceed the first show I worked in Pittsburgh. I was the middle act, and I think Bill Kirkenbauer was headlining. Bill was hysterical. And Dennis went up, and I was so blown away at how glib, how dry, and how funny he was. And one night, some guy was heckling him, kinda, and he goes, "What do you do for a living?" And he goes, "I'm a lawyer." He goes, "Finally, somebody with some brains." And he just buried him. The guy tried to keep up. And Dennis, just dry as you could strike a match on his humor, and I was so impressed, man. I hung around him, and we became fairly good friends at that time because we were both kind of at the same level, struggling. And I went into his house one day, and he had all these books, and I go, "You read these?" He goes, "Yeah, I read 90%." I go, "I never read a book in my life," And I said, "Oh gosh," so I started reading. When I got sober. I just started reading self-help. I went to a therapist. I just wanted to figure out why I behaved the way I behaved.
Punching holes in the wall?
Yeah, punching holes in the wall and again, seeming like there was no control over it. And my brother,
Blackout anger.
And that was my dad and my brother.
Yeah.
Nothing they did amidst their rage was their fault. It was always triggered by somebody. So it was whoever triggered them, their fault. I looked at it the other way. I should have control over this, and I'm scaring my family.
Yeah.
So I just got to kind of try to figure it out. And so I went completely, when I got sober, I sat on a stool for years, 2 or 3 years. I never got off the stool. I would sit and do my show on a stool.
Yeah.
Look at the floor. And I remember I wrote about this in my book. In a hockey rink. They were turning everything into comedy clubs. Pizza club. Rink. So anyway, a hockey rink. On a Saturday night, 500 people.
You said that immediately. I'm like, first of all, the ceiling's way too high.
Way too high.
The sound.
Sound is
terrible.
Right. No. So anyway, I'm on stage, and I can't get a word out. I'm sitting on a stool, and I'm looking at the floor. And I said, "Why are we here? I mean, really?" And you can hear a pin drop. I mean, people are thinking this guy can lose it. I mean, this is not comfortable.
Yeah.
And some little voice in the back, some woman goes, "We just want some jokes." Isn't that great? I said, "That is legitimate. That's right. You're here at a comedy club, and I'm supposedly a comedian." And I snapped out of it, and I did well. And you leave. And then the club owners are calling my agent, going, "He's not funny anymore. He quit drinking. And he's just not funny anymore,
Yeah.
And I got back to drinking again,
Do you think it wasn't the drinking? Did you find Christianity at that point?
Not
or was
at all.
That later?
That was 7 or 8 years into my marriage. Yeah, we
Oh, so you had tried quitting drinking
I
before?
quit. Oh, a bunch of times. I tried to quit. And I made a year once, but I was still doing cocaine. By the way, if you're going to AA, I don't recommend continuing doing cocaine.
I'm just throwing that out.
Just throwing it out there. Again, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer in your life. Why not? My problem's alcohol. So, but I white knuckled my way through weeks. I started quitting when I was 25. I went to my first AA meeting at 25 years old. I wrote about this in the book. My friends, I didn't realize it. The guys I was drinking with were all the younger brothers of my peers. My peers had moved on. They had wives, they had families. So I just started drinking with the younger brothers. I grew up
because
in a
you were
small,
staying young.
I was small town.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I had no one to drink with. So I started, and one night I got drunk, passed out in the bar. They tied my shoelaces together. So when I stood up, I fell on my face.
Yeah.
And then I look up and I'm laying on the ground drunk again. And they're laughing. All these kids that I grew up, making fun. They were younger brothers. We made fun of them. They're mocking me. So
Yeah.
I took one shoe off and I walked about 1.5 miles, 2 miles to my house, crying, humiliated.
Then punched holes in the wall
I
when
did
you
not.
got inside.
Did not.
Nice.
I popped open the vodka and I started drinking some more. So anyway, I was watching Daniel J. Travani, the actor, on The Tonight Show, talk about his alcoholism and how he got sober and it changed his life. I called my dad the next morning. I said, you need to come pick me up. I need to quit. I can't. He goes, we didn't know you had I said, I didn't want to bother you. I didn't want to burden my parents with my problem. They had enough issues with my brother. So my parents took me in and the deal was you stay sober. So I went to about a month's worth of AA meetings, realized I wasn't as bad as those people.
Yeah, that gave you some freedom.
Gave me some freedom, but I did knuckle my way for about 9 months without a drink. I was traveling. It helped my comedy tremendously. But I was still doing cocaine and speed.
And so this is around the time of the hockey rink.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's
sitting on a stool.
a probability that maybe you were struggling a little because you were.
Well, I'll tell you when it
all the
was,
time.
because it was 1985 when I met Tammy that November. Hockey rink might have been, again, I'm getting mixed up on my dates, but it might have been December or not much long after I met Tammy at Hilarities. And I was keeping in touch with her. I started drinking the week I was off of booze when I met her, and I started drinking when I met her. I had a hard time with certainly intimacy and relationships sober because I never had one. So it was freaking me
Liquid
out.
courage, like they used to say.
Well, that was it, and she drank, and I told her one of the reasons I fell in love with you is because you could drink and not get giggly. I just couldn't stand giggly.
Women don't realize how much men dislike that personality.
Giggly. Oh, they
that
laugh at
Broadway.
everything. They laugh at everything.
Great.
They
You're
laugh
so
at
weird. It's the worst.
I know.
It's the worst.
I think the Bible compares it to drain on a metal roof or something. Drips on a metal roof.
Everything becomes a question. Immediately, I'm gonna get in a taxi.
I know.
It's the worst.
So anyway, she wasn't. Drink for drink. She can shoot a good game of pool.
And she's hilarious.
And she is.
Yeah.
She's
so funny.
She's got a very wicked, self-deprecating sense of humor.
Yeah.
The sad thing is that I correct her. My correction is always stop talking about my wife that way.
That's what Brent does to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, don't you talk about my wife that way. You think I'd let some stranger come in and say that about you?
Yeah.
No. So
Yeah.
you don't get to say that. If I think she means it. If she doesn't. She gave me a great line that I've used in my show. I was going to get a physical. She came back from a physical, and I said, what'd the doctor say? She said, if I was part of a wildebeest herd, the lions would be circling me. That's what he said. So anyway, I wrote that down. I said, I'm using that.
Yeah,
so
that's so
I've used
funny.
that as me, not her. But
And okay, do you root her on when she gives you better tags? Because that's a struggle that me and Brent have. For
not
people
at
that
all.
don't know, that's my husband.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times I'll give him a tag or he'll give me a tag, and if it lands harder, we're always like, son of a biscuit.
Yeah.
Like,
No, I
dang.
love it. I love it. I take I write a lot of stuff down that she says.
Yeah, but also she's not a comic, so there's.
But
not
she's
that.
and again, it's just real and genuine and true.
Yeah.
So that's more relatable to someone who makes things up.
Yeah.
You know?
Speaking of relatable, when you're talking about Bill Hicks, I really struggle with enjoying comedy where people are trying to make a point. Like, oh, I want like Bill Hicks or sometimes even like Dave Chappelle is like, I want to frame this deep thought and make it funny. And I just like relatable and funny.
Well, that's me. See, what I loved about George Carlin, and again, in hindsight, I loved Carlin. I woke up to his Class Clown album in high school, like every morning.
Yeah.
I'd put it on, getting dressed. And what later in life, when he got to that point but he was so brilliant at taking that point where it's almost preachy
Yeah.
just when you're like going, all right, get
Yeah.
off the soapbox. Bam!
Yeah.
Just a clever joke. One of my favorite lines that he and I'll never, to me, it was just so clever. Muhammad Ali was a conscientious objector. He wasn't going to go to war to kill people.
Right.
And Carolynn's line was, I can't kill people, but I'll beat them up. Can't kill them, but I'll beat them up.
Oh, it's so true.
It is, but
Yeah.
that's where you need the joke. So today, again, I always say I'm 99.8% politic or cultural free. I mean, nobody needs to hear from me. I assume my audience has already done their homework and research, and they don't need me to come up there and shockingly point out something that they've known about.
Yeah.
And I'm not shying away from it because if there's a joke, I'll do it. I do the joke about the orange and Trump, and I think it's funny. And I also do the thing about the chest waxing. Well, we spend billions to have people rip the hair out of our body by its roots.
Yeah.
That hurts, but we don't want our military dripping water on the faces of terrorists.
Yeah.
I don't even get that. I think the CIA needs to open up some spas.
Yeah.
Spas. Yeah, we're going to the mall. It's in the middle of the Baltic Sea on a barge, but it's a mall. It's all about phraseology. So anyway, yeah, I get an email every now and then. Waterboarding is bad. I go, yeah, okay, fine. Get your own show and stand up there and tell people how bad it is. I don't care. But to me, it was about the joke. It's if you can't get the laugh with it. And so much today seems to be, again, from an old guy who's been around forever. And I've seen really good political commentary, funny.
Yeah.
Over the years. Jimmy Tingle was brilliant, the Boston comic. And there was the first line of Haitian refugees that were getting turned around. Jimmy came out and said, I wonder if they were blonde-haired, blue-eyed Swedish women, if our Congress would be pushing them back. Yeah, you need a job. And that's funny. It is.
Yeah.
Is it because they're, black and brown
hot.
or Haitian and poor? Or is it, is it a policy that we, and again, that was a funny joke and true. I did a joke about COVID. I said, it's nice to wake up one day and realize that your life dream has been declared non-essential by a bunch of bureaucrats. Yeah, comedy, it's not essential. But they kept the strip clubs open because Congress needs a place to meet during the scourge. So again, that to me is a funny joke.
Yeah.
And if it's not, then they won't laugh, and then I'll drop it. But
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change anybody's heart or mind. I just want them to laugh. And if you point out the obvious, sometimes that's all you need to do. Is point out the obvious.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to this is what ADD looks like, by the way.
Yeah, and we both have it. So good luck.
So good luck following this stream of consciousness. So anyway, I met Tammy in '85, and the hockey rink was somewhere in there, and I asked her to marry me in April of '86. I met her in November of '85, and she had Aaron. Aaron was 2. At the time. And that was it. We were engaged. I asked her to marry me at Cleveland Airport, baggage claim, opens my book.
Romance.
Yeah. Yeah, wanted the female reader to fall in love with my romantic side. So
Yeah.
That was important.
Baggage claim.
Important to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, and it's funny. Anyway, I don't want to get into that, but anyway, we moved it up. I met her in November and asked her to marry me in April. She got pregnant in May. We got married in July. And it's funny in thinking about it. When she found out she was pregnant in May, she sobbed. She already had 1 kid.
Yeah.
And here she's with this. I don't want to say I was not a catch. I just, I think there was some, by May, I was comfortable. So the anger was coming out.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you right where it was the first time I snapped in her presence. She had given me the wrong turn, and I just was in a bank parking lot, slammed on the gas, spun the gravel around. And that was the first time she got a look at what her future was going to look like.
Yeah.
And I think now she's pregnant, she's engaged, and here's this lunatic,
She didn't even know a Pinto could do that.
No, she did not. It was actually a Ford Galaxy 500 that her grandparents had given her. And anyway, we got married at the Pipe Fitters Union Hall. Thank you very much. Got married in a church, but then we had our
Reception
at the Pipe Fitters Union Hall.
Very nice. Yeah. Okay, so all these years doing stand-up, do you ever get sick of saying the same thing?
No. I mean, I'm fortunate. I have enough material. Because people ask, what's your favorite joke? The newest?
Yeah, because it's interesting.
Yeah,
You're trying to figure out the puzzle.
Right. Trying to get that together, And but I still enjoy moving things around to help the flow. I spend as much time on segues as I do structuring
to make it a narrative.
Story. Yeah, to make it a story, a narrative.
Which is the hardest thing.
Well, it is. It took me a long time to not go joke, and then something completely off topic, joke.
Yeah.
To where there's a flow to the show of getting to know me and Tammy, and that's what I really it's heartwarming when people come out and they go, "How's Tammy?" Tell Tammy I said hi. How's Aaron Ryan doing? How's that? They know my family.
Yeah.
They basically watched them grow up on video. So no, I don't. It's funny. I don't. It's an act.
You love it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because early, if I got into an argument with Tammy on the phone, I brought that anger up on stage, and it affected the show. And I had friends go, "Why do you call her before the show?" I go, I gotta get, but now I'm able to, if we have issues or something and something happens or something tragic comes in, I can compartmentalize what I need to do on the stage. It's not, they don't care.
Yeah, people don't realize, like, if you sell a joke, like people that might be listening to this that's never done this, if you sell a joke with a little bit of anger and that's the wrong emotion behind whatever you're saying, like, it's crazy. It's word for word, it can be the same, but if the emotion's just a little bit off or a little bit different, the audience is like, we're not having it.
Joan Rivers said comedy is anger. And as long as it's under 50%,
you're safe.
You're safe. But when the anger takes over and it's almost out of control, and I was, there were times Tammy would come out and the things I said were so vicious. I mean, I'm not going to repeat, but it was bad. And she'd get in the car and cry. You must hate me.
It turned into like venting.
It was. That's all it was. And it's funny because one of the most viewed stories I have online, and people that are fans will know it, the roaster chicken, that came out of a pretty violent. I literally ended up stuffing a roaster chicken into a garbage disposal, and I had my foot up and I was stopped. See, it's funny now.
It's funny.
So anyway, yeah, people go, "We love that story." I go, "Yeah, well, I mean, when you make an ass out of yourself, a bunch of times." But yeah, that was our first year of marriage. Welcome. Hey, this is the honeymoon period. It's only going to get worse from here, baby.
I made you dinner.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That's brutal.
But yeah, we, I think a lot of it, the reason we were able to make it, one, I believe God's hand was on us from the beginning for whatever reason. There's no logical reason why we're together after all this time. None at all.
So you get sober 7 to 8 years after you start comedy.
Yeah.
You meet Tammy 7 to 8 years after you started. And then when do you get sober?
Well, I got sober at 31, in 1987. 31. I had a series of incidences that happened. We were living in Boston. When we got married, we moved to Boston. In the 80s, Boston was probably out of, maybe San Francisco was a hotter, I don't know. Boston and San Francisco. There was so much clever, hip comedy coming out of both those cities. And I had a friend from Chicago move to Boston. And he called me up and said, if you want to come, he goes, I can get you one show. I didn't tell Tammy that our future is based on how well I perform in one show.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got a hold of his agent at the time, Mike Clark, Lenny Clark's brother. Mike calls me and he says, Kenny wants you to work. Kenny Rogerson, one of my dearest friends. We were born same day, same year. Every birthday we talk for like 40 years.
That's adorable.
Yeah. And Yeah, we were sitting at a bar drunk. I know every story I have from
Sitting at a bar drunk.
drunk. So let's avoid that going forward. Just assume I was drunk if I'm telling you something that happened
If it's pre-87.
before 87.
If he says a name and I make a face like, who's he talking about? He was drunk.
Yeah. So anyway, Kenny, we're sitting at a bar in Chicago after working the Comedy Cottage and never met. And he says, it sucks when it's your birthday. You got no one to drink with. It's my birthday too. He goes, what day? I go, the 5th. He goes, oh, mine too. What year? I go, 1956. He goes, oh, me too. And then he looks at me. He goes, what time? I go, I don't know, man. Maybe we're the same guy. So from that on, we've been friends. And we went to Vegas, had no money, and we had to get back home. And there are people who win cars in Las Vegas, and they need people to drive them.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a drive back to Boston where he lived. And he said, I'll drop you off in Chicago. So we needed somebody to vouch for our character. And the only guy we knew in Vegas was a heroin addict. So we called JG up 2 p.m. Of course, he's still sleeping. It's 2 p.m. And I said, somebody's going to call you, man. And we need you to vouch for our character. And he goes, what's in it for me? I go, JG, come on. I'll tell you what, we won't call the cops and get you busted for possession. So anyway, they call the heroin addict and he vouches for our characters.
What a good guy.
We're the good guy. So we got to drive this car back to Boston. So Kenny says, I got you one show. And so I go up and I did well enough to where they go, you're in, which was really, of all the auditions I've done in my life, that was the one that was the most nerve-wracking because literally we just moved our family. And if you're not in, you don't work.
Yeah.
So and then I found out the guy who hired me, I can say his name, Barry Katz. He's a big-time producer agent now in LA. But Barry, he goes, I don't pay the night of the show. You have to wait a week for the money. And I go, no, I don't wait a week. I just wrote a bad check to get into my apartment.
Yeah.
Again, alcoholics, drug addicts, you know what I'm talking about. I had every bank figured out. I had 3 different bank accounts. Some took 3 days to clear, some took 5. The first time we got into electronic banking where checks cleared literally that day, I bounced like 13 checks in one day because I had so many going around. But I knew the days. Yeah. I had, and again, it's amazing to me how complicated your life is as an alcoholic and a drug addict, but you don't even realize.
So much effort.
I know, just to keep all these balls in the air, so you can feed the beast. So anyway, I wind up at Barry's front door at 2 a.m, pounding. I got his address. Again, there was no GPS. So I had to work to get his address. And then to find it. Because again, there's no maps. I had to figure it out through Boston. And I'm screaming to wake him up at 2 a.m. I want my money. I want my money. He goes, I don't pay. I want my money. Anyway, he finally gave me the money. I threatened him and everything. And that Christmas, I get a Christmas card from Barry Katz. Me and Tammy get a Christmas card from him, addressed to Mr. and Mrs. Psycho. So that was my moniker in Boston, was Psycho. I loved the moniker. I thought it was really kind of cool. And being in Boston, where anger is the center of most of the comedy.
It's the main emotion of everyone.
I had a guy from HBO see me one night. He goes, what is it with you Boston guys? You're so angry. You ever live in Boston? Yeah. My favorite one, somebody said something about Bill Burr. I said, I love Bill Burr. And he goes, how does he think of that stuff? I go to a bus stop in Boston at 8 a.m. There's like 6 Bill Burrs on every corner. It's just Boston.
Cold and angry.
Well, that's it. It's just Boston, man. So, and I love it. I'm going back there.
Okay, so next year is going to be your first farewell tour.
First farewell tour next year. I'll be 70.
How do you deal with the road life? Like, it's a struggle for Tammy, but do you think you're going to miss it? Do you think you're going to fill all the time up with other stuff?
Well, it's interesting. COVID gave me an insight. I was off 5 months. I had not been off 5 months. Tammy, at 30 days, Tammy came to me and said, welcome home. I go, what do you mean? You have not been home 30 consecutive days in the entirety of
Since 1987.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said, no. She goes, yeah, I've been waiting to say it. Welcome home. And my joke is, by day 45, we were scrolling our iPads for attorneys. So it's like,
get away from me.
Daddy's a little stressed. And even now I catch it. If I'm home for 2 weeks, we start getting, because it's not rhythm. Our
Yeah.
rhythm is I'm home a week, it's 5 days, 7 days, 3 days, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you get to 14, 16, 18 days, there's this like familiarity and you go, are you still here? You know?
Yeah.
So 5 months in, I went out on the road. Yeah, COVID hit in March, so August, I went out to Texas. The rooms were at 25%. And I said to my manager, I'm going. I need to work. I need to get out. And came home after 2 days and told Tam, if we had the money, I'd retire. I really would.
You'd enjoyed it.
I enjoyed being home.
Yeah.
I have acquaintances. I have plenty of them. But I got to know some of these guys. Our friendship got deeper
Yeah.
in that 5 months. Past the surface level. The big joke in our house is I golfed with a guy for 7 years, and then we were going to get the wives together for dinner. And Tammy goes, what's country's wife's name? And I go, I don't know. You've been golfing with him for 7 years. You don't know his wife? I go, never came up. She goes, do they know my name? I go, the whole world knows your name. I can't stop talking about you. But yeah, that's, again, you're out there, you don't know, you know people, but you don't know them. I sat in bed more than one night wondering would anybody I know at the bottom of their life reach out to me? And the answer, outside of maybe Lenny, I don't know. I don't even think Lenny would reach. I mean, my manager, I know Lenny for 40 years.
Yeah.
He knows me better than anybody. But I think in his life, he has friends that are deeper.
Yeah.
I have used a friend in Chicago. I was at a really low point with the booze. I was in North Carolina and I couldn't stop. I just could not stop. And I called him and I said, you got to come pick me up. I'm not going to get out of here alive.
Mm-hmm.
And he drove from Chicago to Raleigh or Charlotte and picked me up. We played some golf on the way home. That's a friend.
Yeah.
And I wondered one night laying in bed, do I have anybody in my life that would reach out at that moment? I need to call Jeff. I don't know. Maybe, if they're watching this, maybe they'll reach out and go, I'd call you. I don't know. But I have good friends. I have friends. I have people I confide with. I have program people, But this business, everything is on the surface level. It gets very rarely does it get deep.
It never does. Yeah. I think this is one of the few exceptions for me and Brent, like how me, you, and Tammy all get along so well.
Yeah.
But it's like the 2 years I was on the road, I only did it, like legit did it for 2 years. And I lost all my friendships. They just kind of disappeared because it was, here's an invitation, can't make it, I'm in this, I'm in Georgia, I'm in here, I'm in here. And then all of a sudden I couldn't do family stuff. And then I started missing everything for my son. I couldn't get that back. And then it was like my Instagram blew up and my son was a kid. And then I got off the road and he is a legit teenager that's driving now. And I'm like, how did I miss? Why would I sacrifice this to just go?
But praise God that you caught it. And
Thank
I think
God,
that was what we talked about that first night. I said, 5 years from now, you look back and go, I did the right thing.
Absolutely.
It's hard though. For me, it's interesting. I don't know how much of my esteem is connected to what I do. I really don't.
Because you've never not really done it.
I've never really not done it.
Right.
Tammy esteems me in ways that nobody else can. I guess it's why it eats at me when she's so self-deprecating at times, because I feel like I'm not doing my part as her husband to validate everything about her so that she doesn't feel the need to deprecate herself. We had a discussion, last week. I would gave her a kiss or something, and she said, "Boy, that's nice." And I go, "What do you mean?" "Well, you just don't do that much anymore." And I went, "I don't. I kiss you every morning. I kiss, at night. But those are rote, kind of obligatory. Good morning.
Yeah.
And then I got angry because it tripped a button in me. And then we got into a minor argument. And I went to my part of the house. She went to her part of the house. And it stewed on me till I realized she's right. You know, you get into this, whatever it is, life is, and it just goes by. All of a sudden, a month goes by, and you're just two people that pass in the house, and you have, you know, again, obligatory conversations about things, you know, and the conscious effort it takes, and it's great. But if you're on the road all the time,
Yeah.
you know,
People don't realize how much it is too. Like people think that, oh, you're just having a great time. You get to see all these places and
right,
it's so much fun. They don't realize you're driving, you're driving, you're driving. You get there, you drop your bags, you go to the show,
right,
you work out, you eat right, you go to the show, you work out, you eat right, you go to the show, you come home, you do your laundry, you
right,
try to do all the chores around the house. You got to
right.
pay all these bills. I got to do all this. I got to do all this. And then my suitcase is back in the car and I'm gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'm not complaining. Believe me, I love what I do. And when I get there and I get to stand up in front of the people, and the process of stand-up comedy to this day, and I will quit the minute it stops getting my juices going.
Yeah.
To take a premise or come up with a line. Oh, I can do that. I can make that. I can, and then figuring out where it fits in the course of an hour and 20-minute show. And now I'm getting millennial kids coming up and going, I've been watching you since I was 8 years old, you know? And it's kind of cool because, again, if I had a chance to ever talk to Bill Cosby back in the day,
Yeah.
that's what I would have said to him. My father's dark days, his depression, always, we knew it was over, that spell, when we sat in the living room and listened to Cosby albums, you know? And I grew up watching my father, those moments, everything dissipated when my father would sit in the living room and laugh.
Yeah.
And to be able to do that for families, and to have them come up and say that, I mean, it is heartwarming. It is, it means something. And I've seen artists that dismiss it, and you think, boy, that must have come really easy for you. You know, I mean, when you live in this business in obscurity for 40 years,
Yeah.
and then you get a break like Dry Bar did for me, and then all of a sudden people are coming out, and then you realize, oh man, I've been watching you online for 20 years, and you're like, really?
Yeah.
We just never wanted to buy a ticket to come and see you. So it is, and Tammy hates my job because people ask, does she come out with you? No, she said her deal is 5 days in an ocean,
Yeah.
you know. So now you,
But I think a lot of people, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think a lot of people, it's so weird. I wonder how many comedians that's their story. Because you were talking about you and Bill Cosby and your dad. Me and my dad, it was John Reap. It was,
really?
I was
Wow.
a
And then for
teenager.
your husband to get to open for
Well,
John.
John Reap introduced me and my husband,
Oh,
which is
wow.
even crazier. But John Reap and me and my dad, when I was a teenager, if we weren't arguing or I wasn't throwing something or we weren't just at odds, we were watching John Reap. It was the only time we would
Wow.
connect. And then on for 15 years, we would just jokingly throw his jokes into conversation to break the tension sometimes because it was too much. And then similar with my husband and his dad was Sinbad.
Oh, wow.
So it's like, I wonder how many people it's like, oh, comedy bridged the gap in our house. It was
Yeah.
like the one time, and then we could throw that when we were in the car and it was uncomfortable or whatever, throw that joke back out there.
Yeah. I had a funny story. Tammy and I got into an argument, back in the 80s. We were leaving a party in Boston, and it really tension in the car, quiet. And
That's the worst, isn't it?
Albert Brooks comes on the radio with one of the most classic comedy routines about opening for a rock band.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I had to open for so-and-so. And they go, yeah, this is how it always goes. Are you ready for it? And they give the name. He goes, they're not going to come more. We want more. But first, come on. And I start laughing, and Tammy's just seething. I said, come on, that's funny. Can't help it. I can't, in the middle of our angst, there was this thing, this seed. And anyway, it did break it. And she said, "You're such an a-hole." And I go, "I know, I know I am, babe." And then, you move on.
She said, "You're such an a-hole, but are you ready to see?
Are you ready? But, first." And we've all been there. I mean, I remember somebody called me to open for ZZ Top, and they wanted to pay me $50. And I said, I want 10 grand, and I just threw out a number, and they go, "I'm not paying that." I go, "Then I'm not doing the show."
Yeah.
"Well, you can put it on your resume." I said, "I could put it on my resume anyway. I don't think ZZ Top's going to call me, "Hey, Memphis, it says you opened for us. You didn't open. Take that off your resume." I said, "I can make up whatever I want." Most people did.
Yeah.
Made up their resumes.
But people don't realize that it's comedy death to open or go after any type of music. Comedy is like such a specific.
Yeah.
It is a specific art that needs to be done in a specific
like a theater.
space.
It's like a theater. You need quiet to watch a play.
Yeah.
And that's why I used to say Dice Clay was not a comedy show. It was an event like WWE. I had some friends that went to see him, and he said it was just chaos. The whole crowd's shouting, and he's shouting, and it's for an hour, whatever. That's not a show.
I saw Bill Burr at Bridgestone, and it was chaos. It was
really
wild. Yeah. Comedy in an arena. I mean, I can't even
It's
imagine.
hard. That's why Nate's so special.
Yeah, how he does it like that.
14,000 people sitting quiet and listening to
yeah.
Probably a really dry. I wished I had met Nate Bargatze back when I was doing auditions for Letterman, because I was told you need to chop up all your stories, take 3 stories, and turn 3 to 5 minute stories and turn them into 3 1-minute stories or 3 minute-and-a-half stories. So nothing really fit. Nothing was, So I never felt comfortable doing auditions because I never felt I was doing my comedy justice. I was chopping it up, but that was a choice. It was my choice, But to watch Nate will take one story, do it for 5 minutes, and it kills. It's just that, but that's the way it was written. That's the way it was performed, and that's the way it should be delivered.
Yeah, not set up punchline, set up punchline, set up punchline. Yeah, so true. I felt so bad. Speaking of Bill at the Bridgestone, I think that in the round helps. Because if he was in the round, he'd be right there. But we were at Bridgestone, and he was way over there. And I think it disconnects everything. So I wonder if he was in the round. Like, that's comedy nerd talk.
Yeah, I would know because I don't do big events like that. But so the Recovering Californian, that's how I found you. What was the genesis for that? You just
did that happen?
You just found life in Tennessee that different.
Well, I had never heard the term Recovering Californian, and I was leaving Waffle House for the first time. Well, one of the first times having Waffle House, and I just thought it would be so funny.
God,
I know.
Coming on here bragging again.
So much Waffle House. I've had so many carbs. No, and I don't want to my waitress had all her teeth. Like, I don't want to. It was pretty.
It must have been Franklin.
It actually was Franklin.
It was. Yeah, well, there you go.
No, I was leaving Waffle House, and I made some dumb joke online about how it was the Lord's. There's the Lord's Supper, and then there's the Lord's Breakfast, and it's Waffle House.
Yeah.
And I said, "Hi, I'm a recovering Californian." First time I ever did it, and then I thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept doing it because I've noticed with social media, you have to have a hook right away.
Right.
Like, it has to be, okay, well, I look kind of interesting and different, and then my name's Carollynn, I'm a recovering Californian. So it's like, if they find that funny, or if that makes them have anger, they're there for that.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as they emote.
Yeah. And then that's it. They're just there. And then it was the craziest thing because it just, I mean, it exploded so fast, and I so wasn't ready. So when I came back to stand-up, I started stand-up in 2019. And then I started to get a little traction, started to get at that point where I could maybe host. And then the world closed up.
Right.
So I kind of thought, well, that's gone. And I tried to hold on to it a little bit during COVID, especially online. But it was pre-me and Jesus. So I was horrendous, filthy, terrible. My social media, God, I hope those pictures, whatever was out there, never comes back around, because it will bite me in the butt. But anyways, so 2019 happens. I start doing stand-up. I get all these opportunities I didn't deserve way too quick. I had one guy, I might have told you this before, but I had one guy, he put me on shows because I had that unique non-binary look, my hair at the time. And he was like, we really need a non-binary person for this poster. So I would get like a whole bunch of gigs, especially around San Francisco, Sacramento,
Oh, wow.
because I had the non-binary look.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, nobody does. It's a
Yeah.
mystery. So they would put me on these shows that I didn't
Yeah.
deserve. They'd be like, you got to do 15 minutes. I'm like, I can talk into a microphone for 30 seconds. And they're like, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
And it was just garbage. It was terrible. It was awful. I remember going to a real comedy club for the first time in Vegas. And I built it up like I'm a comedian.
Right,
now.
you're in Vegas.
I'm going to the LA Comedy Club in Vegas. I posted getting a new tattoo while I was there before I went on the show. I was like, this is my life now. And I ate it so bad that I was like, I was on like the 15th at the Strat, like the 15th or 20th floor. I was like, there's a reason these things don't open because I'd be right out there. I even scoped out the closet and I was like, oh, dang, I'm too tall. The blow dryer wouldn't reach the bathtub. Like it was all bad. And I was like, come on, somebody. And so then COVID happens. I go to the South for the first time. I always thought the South was I was in the California bubble. I thought it was just all stupid racist rednecks that hated freaking kale shakes and everything. And then my mom lives in a big farm in Arkansas. She bailed on California when I was like 10.
Right.
So she bails. I'm like, okay, well, I listened to a podcast and I was like, if the world is ending, I'm sure as heck not going to do it smack in the middle of Sacramento. I put my son on a plane the beginning of March. I mean, they hadn't even started locking stuff down.
Oh, wow.
All they did was take kids out of school. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this here. So I fly to my mom's farm. And while I'm on the farm, Arkansas, really not for me.
Right.
But like most people, I meet a guy on TikTok that swooned my heart named Biscuit.
Oh, Biscuit.
Biscuit. His name was Biscuit. And he drove for Walmart in Shelbyville, Tennessee. And he stole my heart. Oh, Biscuit. First carb I ever ate. And so it's crazy. I mean, my son, I had split custody. My son was with his dad for the summer. So I just decided to shack up in Biscuit's semi-truck and see what happens.
Really?
Yeah, during the first couple months of COVID. Because
they were essential.
Yeah, they
Truck
were.
drivers were essential.
And my custody agreement was my husband had my son for the summers and I had him the whole school year. So summer comes around, it's still COVID. I get in the back of the semi-truck. I mean, for anyone, for safety, never get in a semi-truck with a strange man for 3 months, no phone. One time my phone died while I was with him. And I remember thinking, wow, my phone just died. And I'm with this guy I've known for 2 weeks. Like, this probably isn't great. Nobody knows where I am. They can't track me. They can't find me. But anyways, Biscuit wasn't that bad. So I decided to shack up with this dude. And his dad said we weren't equally yoked because Biscuit was a Christian. His dad said we weren't equally yoked. And I was a staunch atheist. And I'd never heard that term before. And I was like, I'm yoked. Ciao. And I decided as like this crazy atheist to disprove everything this guy held dear. So I go down to Barnes and Noble. I was super pissed off. I only ever wore like demonic clothing. The first time I met the guy, I had an Amigo the Devil sweatshirt on. Ridiculous. And I had ripped up leggings with all my leg tattoos showing. And I'm like, I don't understand why your dad doesn't think I'd be a good wife. Like, this doesn't make any sense at all. Thank God COVID happened because I had a schedule to get an upside down cross tattooed on my face.
Oh my gosh.
So good thing. I mean, I'm sorry if you lost your grandma, but shoot, it saved my face. It wasn't good. The hand tattoo is bad enough. But anyways, he said we weren't equally yoked. I buy this Bible and I'm like, I'm going to prove this guy wrong. And I start reading it with a bad attitude. Like, in the beginning, man, they're so stupid. And then I'm going with Biscuit. Things are not going well with Biscuit at all. And by this time, it's towards the end of summer. I get my son back. I sold my house in California, pack up my whole house, moved to Shelbyville to live in Murfreesboro.
Yeah.
And
the big city.
The big host city. And he's gone. He's trucking at nights. And he's Mr. Super Christian that doesn't really know much about Christianity. So then I start reading Proverbs just by accident. And, I'm going to prove him wrong. And then when I started reading Proverbs, all of a sudden, like every problem I've ever had, the parent I needed, the wisdom I needed, the life I needed to lead was all in this stupid book that I thought was for idiots.
Right.
And so I start reading it. And then all of a sudden this thing starts to happen where I'd read this proverb in the morning and then something would happen in my life. And I'd be like, well, normally I would handle it this way, but I think I should actually handle it this way. And that was just the little seed that was planted. And then, well, I out-yoked Biscuit. I did. I said, hey, you're not Christian enough for me. Because all of a sudden us shacking up together, not being married was weird. And the fact that we were both angry all the time and fighting all the time wasn't good. And so we part ways. And I ended up staying in Tennessee because I couldn't believe how kind everyone was. Like this weird, soft, and you've traveled all over the South, and I'm sorry to every other state, but there is something special about the people in Tennessee. Like they're just so kind-hearted and warm. And there was just something here, and I couldn't figure it out. And I was working at a car audio place, because they were the only people that would hire me
with all the tats.
With all the tats.
Right.
Yeah, which is crazy.
They hire cons.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They do.
They figure you've probably been lifting car audio to pay for the tattoos for years. So.
She can't put one in, but boy, can she get one out.
That's what we need. We need someone to get it out quick.
Shout out to Cartronics in Cool Springs, the only people that would hire me. But yeah, I mean, I had a great job there. All of a sudden, I had this stability. I was able to support my son as a single mom. But then I got, that I feel like we're gifted in this special way to talk to people and like to convey things through stories. Yeah. And I still had that want where I was finding, I would say to you, like, I have my identity in Christ and I have all of my life in Christ. But I still needed appreciation and applause from everybody else. And I'd gotten used to that on social media. So then I'm like, oh, well, I'll take this Christian package and I'll take it to social media. Yeah. And so I came out with the original was, hi, my name's Carollynn. I identify as a baby Christian. Oh. And that blew up. That was the first thing to blow up. But then, thankfully, by God's grace, I got canceled. And so I had to...
Right. Talk about that. Because when I met you, I was shocked because that completely went by me. I never even knew about it.
Yeah, it was the greatest gift that ever happened to me, but it was the most painful thing I ever went through in terms of shame.
So it came from a post.
Yeah, I made a joke during COVID about the vaccine, and I said, my head was shaved, and I said that it would be the biggest trend in unvaccinated camps was to have a shaved head.
Yes.
And at the time, I thought it was hilarious.
Right.
I guess I was the only one. And so one of the last Holocaust survivors got hold of the video, and he made a video saying that I needed to be taught a lesson. And I think 40 million views later, hundreds and thousands of reposts and people remaking the video. Like, I remember there was even a psychologist in San Diego, a psychologist that worked at San Diego State, I think, said that I should kill myself. Like,
yeah, that's healthy.
It was so dark. They shared my address. I left my church because of it. They went on my Facebook and found every place I'd ever worked, gave them bad Google reviews. It was I lost a lot of friends over it. At that time, I had a cleaning business. I lost all the cleaning clients, except for 2 at that time. It was horrifying, but it was also the most humbling experience.
Hans in France, they kept you.
They did.
Werner.
Yeah.
They did. He kept you. I'm sorry. Make a joke in the middle of your pain.
That's the best part of the whole gig.
Yeah. Well, anyway.
No, but it was so painful at the time. And
it's so funny to me because nobody finds the irony in destroying your life. Nobody sees the irony in that. Yeah. That you're not being taught a lesson. If anything, you're if it wasn't for God's grace in your heart and the heart that had changed, I could see you turning even darker.
If I
You-
didn't have Christ in my life, I would have killed myself. That's how bad it was. I mean,
Wow.
I didn't have an income. People were so mean to me.
Right.
Like, it was insanity. I'd have people call me up out of the middle of nowhere and be like, I saw you online. I didn't know you were an anti-Semitic. Like,
Right.
and that is so far from my heart.
Yeah.
And the
And
truth,
half these people are now in the pro-Palestinian lines at the college because that's trending now.
yeah,
So
they're trending.
that's a joke, by the way. Don't
Yeah.
cancel me.
Now we're double canceled.
Yeah.
But it was the greatest thing because then I stopped identifying as the baby Christian and
Yeah.
I stopped professing things I didn't know anything about. And then I put myself in seminary school because
Really?
I was like, oh, this thing that I don't know anything about.
Right.
And I keep telling people I do, and I'm brand new to it. So I put myself in seminary school. Long story short, seminary school landed me in an Eastern Orthodox faith. And then I've just been there since, enjoying my life with Christ
Yeah.
and becoming this new person that struggles a lot
Yeah.
with
Well,
all sorts of things.
anybody honest will tell you that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is half of me is my old nature, half of me is my new nature. And it's discerning
Yeah.
as the two.
And it's painful.
It is, and it should be.
It rubs like sandpaper.
Yeah, I mean, the Bible's clear that Jesus said, I'll send you a counselor, and it doesn't mean it's going to be pretty, but you'll have a new conscience. You'll have a voice inside there. And the key, for me anyway, is identifying what's old and what's new, and it's pretty simple. Old is destroying me and new is building me. I mean, it's one of the most hurtful things that Tammy could ever say to me is, you haven't changed.
Oh, yeah.
Because of a moment or a heartbeat in the midst of our marriage. I'll throw something or smash something, and then that line, you'll never change. And it's like the computer's kicked, shame hits, and then I'm off for however long.
Yeah.
And I heard a pastor say one night online, he was reading his mail, and he said, I can read some pretty nasty comments about me online. And he's eating a sandwich at the time, and he goes, doesn't bother me at all. But my wife can say something to me on Monday, and it's eating at me on Friday because she matters, at a biblical level, and I miss, and going back to what we were talking about, friends. I have friends in my life that can tell me anything. I mean, they can correct me. They've been given permission. They know my dirt. They know the buttons. They know them all. Just like anybody who loves you knows.
Mhm.
They know the buttons. Now, a healthy relationship, they don't willy-nilly push them. They may push them by accident. And then, obviously, if you can apologize and repent for that and go, look, I'm sorry. I took a cheap shot. I really did.
Yeah.
But that's where the vulnerability comes in the midst of Tammy and I are married 38 years, and I'm thinking 5 years maybe. We've been at another place where a lot of that baggage doesn't surface much anymore. But holy cow.
Yeah.
30 whatever years of stripping away. What is it? Carl Jung said, we as children gather things up, put them in a big bag on our back. And the lucky ones spend their entire adult life emptying the bag. I mean, it never gets empty.
Yeah.
It just gradually, you just don't respond in certain ways that you used to. And that registers like, holy cow, in the past, I used to throw something across the room, and even now, I guess, when people would cut me off, it's amazing how quick you can forget you have a piece that surpasses all understanding behind the wheel of an automobile.
Yeah.
But now, I honestly, I'm pretty good. That Christ has removed a lot of that debris. Still have issues.
It's a slow purification process.
It really is. And then
Yeah.
Brent, you met Brent where?
Oh, okay. So
Now, he does a line in his show, and again, I hate to be one of these fans. But when he met you, he said that if another woman looks at you, you'll cut her.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That is very true. I will cut her.
I love that.
But that piece that surpasses
that's
even a shank
yeah.
is great. But no, Brent is actually the reason the Recovering Californian came to be, because Brent and I have a pretty dark history. And when we met, he like refused to pick me, essentially. We'll set that up as the context. And I have that blackout anger rage like you do.
Yeah.
And so I sat and I brewed and I was like, what is the best way to hurt this man that has hurt me so badly? And I had been out of stand up for years. I never thought that I would go back to stand up in any kind of way. And I was like, I'm going to go back to stand up. I'm going to be a headliner within a short amount of time. I'm going to surpass everything that he loves. I'm going to get into every club he loves. I'm going to just destroy him.
It's a great foundation for a loving relationship.
Isn't it? It's great, right? It's so sweet. And so I had this anger and I was like, I am going to explode so quick. He's 13 years in. At the time, I think he was 11 years in. I'm like, you've been doing this 11 years. Watch me get everything you've ever wanted in less than half the time. And I went that week to my first open mic here in Nashville. Yeah. And I walk on that stage and I'm just like, this is me. And then within 6 months, I was the Recovering Californian and I was in all the clubs in the South.
Wow.
It was just that fast. But I didn't want that to happen because then I wanted that to happen in like 3 years.
Right. Then you have the material.
Then I had the material because I didn't have the material. But then it was such a gift, though, because I got to really reconcile that because I didn't have the material. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the jokes. So I was so humbled and devastated that, and I respect the art too much to just try to pretend and maybe do like a Q&A. So I had to call my favorite comic, the one I love so much, and humble myself and be like, will you carry my shows? And Brent Blakeney carried my shows. Yeah. So it was out of anger, but then it was so humbling and so beautiful because it was like, I did this in spite of you, and it made him a 10 times better comic. And I had to be like, I can't do this without you.
Right. Great. Yeah, he's been traveling with me, and as you know, and he's good.
Yeah.
And I tell him because I know he gets frustrated, and but it's only a matter of time. We'll have Brent Blakeney go to him. Very funny guy. And he said the flag thing was your idea.
Yeah, that was my idea.
Oh, my audiences are eating it up. I mean, it tells you what kind of people coming to my show. So anyway, Havoc, your son is 15. 3 more years. Is he going to go to college?
He wants to be a pilot.
Then he has to. Yeah.
Yeah, that's his plan.
Is he going to go to the Air Force? Maybe.
He's thinking Coast Guard.
Coast Guard.
Because he's heard that they get more flight time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Air Force gets the creme de la creme. You know, my nephew was Top Gun on the F-15 a number of years ago. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. Again, a peripheral nephew. I don't meet him much, you know, but that's the kind of family. It's interesting. Tammy's sister, horrific. She's got a book in her. Horrific upbringing. Kicked out of the house at 14, trafficked by some guy at 16, gave birth to her son, and anyway, got rid of the guy that was pimping her out. She got too old for him. You know, 16, 17. And then she came back home, met a guy. He put her through college. She became an engineer, ended up working at NASA. Yeah.
That's an amazing story.
Well, it is, amazing. And her son from that marriage, after they split up, he was the one that became Top Gun. Tammy's brother dropped out, high school, went to work as a glass apprentice, and now I think he has one of the largest commercial glass companies in the country. And Tammy's extremely bright and talented. She would never think so, but
she's so creative.
But she is. She is, and her ability to discern puzzling for me. We're a good fit because she's hyper she could be hyper type A, and I'm a type Z. Let's nap first.
Yeah.
I don't, again, so many years of shoving off my problems really taught me to shove off my problems.
Yeah, just take a nap.
Yeah, and then the pain, that's what somebody once told me. Most alcoholics have a very high tolerance for pain, emotional, physical, whatever. So I was able to ignore IRS, all these letters pile up. At some point, a logical adult would look at it and go, at some point, I'm going to have to get to this. Well, not today.
Yeah.
I'll go hit some golf balls,
Yeah.
And Tammy's more, let's deal with it. Let's get it. Let's,
Make it happen.
Yeah, let's get it done, and her ability to visualize, certainly decorating and things like that.
Everything. The cakes she makes.
Yeah.
She's so artistic. It's unbelievable. What
Yeah.
happens to me with the IRS bills is have ADHD. So one extra thing on my plate, I get so overwhelmed, I just shut down. I'm like,
Well, that's me.
yeah, I'm like, that's too much. I can't. That's too big of a
Why
mountain.
Tammy pointed out to me, if you would unclutter your desk, it wouldn't overwhelm you.
But the idea.
And the whole thought of that was like, oh, well, how do I unclutter it?
Yeah, that's
if I don't
mountain.
see it, I don't think about it. And then I find it 2 weeks later and go, oh, that was a bill that should have been paid 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So what I've done now is I have a pile of mail upstairs, and it gradually works its way to the basement where it gets finished.
Paid and filed.
Yeah, and that's it. And Tammy, her OCD kicks in when the pile in the kitchen gets too high.
Yeah.
So I just snatch it up and bring it downstairs and throw it on the couch.
Yeah.
And then I don't even get, and then I'll go down there and go, ooh, this should have
Well,
been.
because your house is she's decorated it so beautiful, and she does all these little things. It looks like something out of like a Southern Living magazine.
Yeah, somebody used
if
that.
there's a pile of mail, what the heck?
Well, I've said this, and I will say this to my dying day. There are people put on this earth to notice the blemishes in life. Tammy's one of those people. This morning, I go to kiss her good morning. She goes, you have eggs on your... And I looked, and I'm telling you, it was a speck stuck in a whisker, But that's what she'll look and go, oh, you got, and then she'll pick something. I just left the bathroom. How did I not see,
She did fix how I'm doing my eyebrows. I do my
See?
eyebrows the Tammy way now,
Yeah.
and they are way better.
Yes, they are. They're very good.
Yeah. I actually called her waxing lady this morning, and I was like, I need the Tammy eyebrow treatment.
Michelle. I do a joke about Michelle. Michelle. I mispronounce it all the time. Michelle. Anyway, I think we have talked.
We have talked.
We have we not? Is
what
there anything?
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, is there anything that we need to get stuff out?
I think
subscribe
to wherever. Thank you so much for listening. We're so excited. We have so many amazing guests planned. We also have some episodes that are going to be released that are just audio that are phenomenal. So thank you so much for listening. We love you.
Also, we're done talking about ourselves. So from here on out, it'll be about the guest and not about us. And that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Somebody once said, in order for a podcast to be successful, you need to bring people in that you want to talk to. And that's what we're going to do. We are reaching out now to some, I will not drop the names, but we got some people that you're going to be really wanting to hear from. They're really interesting people.
It's going to be so exciting. And thank you for going on this adventure with me and inviting me to be a part of it.
I'm enjoying the ride, and I hope 5 years from now we can look back at this and go, wow, what a ride.
Yeah, I think so.
And God bless you folks.